All right. So, place my hands on my heart. I invite you to do the same if that is safe and comfortable for you to do. Taking that breath of love and gratitude, grateful for this time to come together to be the two or more who are gathered in the name and the nature of love. Grateful for our willingness to be fully present right here and right now, letting go of anything that came before this moment, setting aside anything that is to happen after our group session today, knowing that we can easily and effortlessly pick it up again if it is ours to do. We are grateful and thankful for our devotion, our dedication to knowing the truth of our being, which is unconditional love, pure innocence, perfect wholeness. We're grateful for our mighty companions, our earthly and heavenly helpers. We ask that they join us now, surrounding and supporting us, blessing and guiding us as we enter into conversation today about this section of A Course in Miracles. We are grateful for having open hearts and open minds so that we can receive the inspiration and the guidance and the wisdom that is encoded in the text and in our conversation. And we are grateful to be good receivers of all of it, claiming the kingdom of heaven as ours right here and right now. We're grateful to share the benefits of all that we receive and all that we are with Mother Earth and all her beings because we are one. In grace and gratitude, we let it be, and so it is. Amen. So we are still in chapter 11, God or the Ego, in section 3, the Dark Companions. And I'm going to start us off with paragraph 2, where he says, whenever you ask the ego to enter, you lessen his welcome. He will remain, but you have allied yourself against him. Whatever journey you choose to take, he will go with you, waiting. You can safely trust his patience, for he cannot leave a part of God. But you will far more than patience. You will never rest until you know your function and fulfill it. For only in this can your will and your Father's be wholly joined. To have him is to be like him, and he has given himself to you. And when I read this, what I was feeling was that like integration. So if I'm labeling the ego as wrong or bad, then it's as if I'm labeling a part of me, which is of God, as wrong or bad. And so welcoming it in, I had an experience just yesterday. The experience actually happened a few days before where I got irritated around an interaction that I had with a couple of people. And I really couldn't put my finger on why I was irritated or angry about it. And I was having a conversation about it with my prayer partner Monday morning, and she said, why don't you go back and re-listen to that? Because it was during a class. And I thought, that's a great idea. So I'm willing to do that to, keep my mind open to see what it was that irritated me and to change my mind about it. So I went back and I re-listened, and I honestly could not hear a single thing that would have made me irritated in the conversation. And I thought, that is so crazy because I mean, I was writing a forgiveness letter about it. I couldn't finish the forgiveness letter, which was really odd. It was like I needed to put it aside. And then when I was talking to my friend Christine about it, and I said, I re-listened to the conversation. I have no idea what even irritated me. And she said, well, first of all, you're still grieving. So your brain is in grief mode occasionally. And second of all, the world is like a little topsy-turvy. And so that can be like disturbing to your peace. Those are my words, not hers. And thirdly, she said, when you ended that, or finished that class that day, you had messaged to me that the class was long. It felt really long and that you were starving by the time it was over. And so what I realized was, yeah, all those things are true. And then I picked up the book and read the lesson for the day was, I am never upset for the reason I think. And I just laughed
So was
because
it yesterday? It was yesterday you
it
had
was
the,
it
yeah,
was yesterday I had this realization. You're never upset for the reason I
because
think.
I was just, yeah.
It was so perfect. Um, but it was like a perfect example for me to see, like, anytime I allow my peace to be disturbed, and it's me allowing it to be disturbed. It's not that the peace is disturbed, it's I'm allowing it to be disturbed. Um, I'm probably thinking wrongly. There's
Mhm.
probably something in my brain, like, leading me astray, let's just say.
And also, and I say this a lot, you're a human having in a human body. So when those
Right.
physical things happen, right, where you're just like, I'm a little tired today, this person's going on and on, it's probably great. And another day when you have a lot of energy and you're not hungry or tired, you'd be, I do that sometimes where I'm like, wow, this person's just talking
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
about this. And I get it. So we don't need 10 more minutes on it. But, and
Right.
whatever I might have going on. And then so then another day I'd be tracking and be fine. So
Yeah.
the physical thing is real. And that is, I guess I'm very attuned to that because I have children and I can tell and my son is very, like, when he was hungry, when he was little, it was forget it. Like if I was 30 minutes off his meal schedule, all hell could break loose or his
Yeah.
nap schedule or whatever. And he was very sensitive to that. Where my daughter could flow, he could not. Like we would have all out tantrums if he was 30 minutes late with his meal and we're doing something out, an activity, and we're way past our schedule. He didn't handle that very well.
Yeah.
So there's physical rhythms, all that to say there's physical rhythms that go into
Yeah.
it too. So I'm curious, can we back up? So the line you
Yeah.
said, you were talking about the ego and you were saying like that the ego, to not judge the ego because it's a part of you. So whenever you ask the ego to enter, you lessen his welcome.
Yes.
His is capitalized and that's meaning the spirit, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I just wanted to make sure because then you were kind of like, you said a few things that made me think like, yeah, like
Yeah.
we're not
Basically, it's that whole idea of you cannot ride two horses at the
two
same
horses.
time.
Yes. Well,
So if
yes.
I'm allowing the ego to run the show,
Yeah. Then the spirit is not
Holy
gonna, yeah.
Spirit is not being heard. Yeah.
That's yeah. Well, it's funny because anyway, my dad was big Dylan. My parents were like a Dylan cover band for a hot minute in their lives.
Yeah.
So anyway, everything always comes back to Dylan. But that line, Dylan's song, you can't serve two. There's a line, you can't serve two masters, or you got to serve somebody. That whole song is basically about who are you going to serve. That was like in his
Yeah.
Christian era. But so yes, and I also love the movie Sweet Home Alabama, and it came on like a ton during the holiday season. And there's that, I don't know if you know that movie, but there's that line where that scene at the wedding where where the father turns to Reese Witherspoon and says, "Can't ride two horses, one ass, baby. You can have to make a choice." So yeah, so it's that.
Well, I'll have to watch that again. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Oh yeah, it kept coming on, and so like I would catch different moments. So I saw the wedding scene like two or three times at the end,
Yeah.
and oh Sugar Pea, he called her Sugar Pea. Says can't ride two horses one ass, Sugar Pea. And, where she's like waiting to sign the paper. She's like debating to sign the papers where she's supposed to be marrying McDreamy, um,
Yeah.
Patrick Dempsey. I wrote, oh, well, okay, so I mean, there was a lot that was here, and I had wanted to go back and read the first part. So I sort of like listened to it a little bit, and then I listened and read like the last half, just like earlier this morning. But there's a lot I'll highlight. But since we're in the beginning, I'll highlight the beginning, the first. And yet the invitation must come from you, for you have surely learned that whom you invite as your guests will abide with you. And I think that was just such a great reminder of like who we invite in. And I'm in this place of just a lot of transformation in my life the last few years for different, like my dad passing and my own spiritual growth and also menopause. Like I don't know if I'm technically in menopause or I'm solidly in perimenopause, like lots of physical changes. And I was just messaging with a friend, an old dear friend today about that, about being in our mid 40s and all the things. And so I say all that to say, like, I am, as I continue to get older, like, this truth for me continues to be more true of just how I spend my time and my energy and with whom I spend my time and
Yeah.
energy. And I've had a lot of changes in friendships over the last few years. Like, a lot of things shifted after my dad passed. I changed drastically, and some significant relationships in my life changed. Um, and so I like, and I was just talking to my mom about this last night. Like, I just don't have the energy for the same things that I used to. It's not that my energy level is less necessarily, maybe a little bit, but it's that I don't have the energy for certain things that I used to have the energy for, that I would throw myself into, or things that I would tolerate. I just like, it's a hard line now. Like, I just don't want to. Like recently, that situation in my family, like, I've endured that for my entire life,
Yeah.
in that pattern in my life. And I just was like, and I don't want to do it. Just like, I'm kind of done. So that made me think of that. It's like, so who do you invite in? Who are you spending your time with? Who are you spending your energy on? And as we get older, our energy does, it's more precious. I don't have the same energy that I had even 5 or 10 years ago. It's just different. And so, I still have a good bit, but my energy for certain things is very different.
Yeah.
I'm working on accepting those changes. Like, it's like some very core pieces of who I am have shifted. And it's really kind of like trying to, like, whoa, I'm like, it's like a completely different version of who I am now as to who I was for the first many decades of my life. So then it goes on into the Holy Spirit cannot speak to an unwelcoming host because he will not be heard. I think about that a lot too, in terms of I'm not one to, I guess, impose. Like, I think about that in terms of like other people who should, like, I don't feel any need to share with people like what I believe or what I
Yeah.
think,
No,
because
me either.
like, you're gonna like think what you think. And I just spent 6 days with a part of my family that has very different views on a lot of things than I do, and that's fine. And I don't even, like, even when sometimes when they'll ask me about things, I really don't want to share, because like, we're so vastly different. I just don't see the point in. I'm not trying to defend where I am, and I'm not trying to convince you of anything, and you are where you are, and that's completely fine. Like, I'm
Yeah.
really at peace with all of that. Like, I have no desire to go there with a lot of people about things. So because I think about that, like, if somebody's not asking, they won't be heard. But the same thing with us, with the spirit. And that's what Jennifer talks about all the time, right? Is our willingness. If we're
Yeah.
unwilling, then we're not going to hear it. So if someone else is unwilling, they're not going to hear it. If they're unwilling to see or hear, they won't. But when you are
Yeah.
willing, you will see and hear it. The eternal guest remains, but his voice grows faint in alien company. I love the language of the course. I'm a writer, I'm an academic. Like, I love the way that they just like that. Yes, that line says so much. The
Yeah.
eternal guest remains. Like, he doesn't ever leave. The spirit is always there,
Yeah.
but his voice grows faint in alien company. It's like he can't be heard when there's other louder guests there, i.e. the
Yeah.
ego or whatever, or the dark companions, our fear, our grief, our whatever that is. And grief can go either way. I mean, I think grief can twist our minds and our perceptions and our feelings very much so. And other times it's just a tenderness. I feel like it's just like an open wound tenderness. But I know when I was in the throes of it, my perceptions were not what they would have been if I wasn't in that really like vulnerable place. Um,
Yeah.
so it says, he needs your protection only because your care is a sign that you want him. Think like him ever so slightly, and the little spark becomes a blazing light that fills your mind so that he becomes your only guest. And I wrote next to that, I only interested in thinking the thoughts I think with God. And so,
Yeah.
thinking about that, like, those are the only thoughts I'm interested in entertaining. And, I've gotten a lot better at recognizing when I know I'm not. Like, I was having a hormonal moment a few days ago. Like, I was in the throes of hormones, and old patterns were coming back in my mind about money, about career, about all this stuff. And I could recognize it and I knew it, but I was still having it, So I think that's
Yeah.
good, right. And I was like, okay, Dana, like, that this is not your right mind. You don't want to think this way. These are old patterns coming up, emotionally old patterns and thought patterns.
Right.
And so, again, I think the growth for me is just recognizing it and that I don't stay in that. I don't spin in that for days or, how fast can I get out of it when I
Right.
recognize it. But I also know that sometimes they're physically, like that because I was having a hormonal day, I know that I'm more prone, more vulnerable to go there in my mind. Just like grief can do that to us, or when we're
Yeah.
hungry, like those, like we
Right.
are in a human body, right? So those things do influence how easy it is to stay present in the mind of God, in the spirit, and in love. And so, I don't make big choices around those times. Like when I know I'm like really emotional, I'm not going to make some significant choice or decision about my life and that, or have significant conversations that would be really important. I just I know, okay, this is not a good time for me to do that
Right.
because, so those kinds of things. So I thought that first paragraph just before what you read, but number two was great too. And I think that first line of two. Um, So anyway, I don't know if you have
Yeah.
any. I'll leave it at that. But for now,
Yeah. I love that one of the things that Jennifer teaches in when we're in groups together is um we have like a contract is not the word, credo. And one of the things in the credo is that we will not give unsolicited advice. And
yeah.
it's just that, like what you were talking about with your family, like if they are not in a space like they're asking for your opinion because they are wanting to understand it and maybe change their mind about how they think, then even if you were to share it, it's not going to be heard or it's not going to be received well. And so yeah, I love that. That's always been one of my favorite things about being in community and facilitating groups in her community is that idea that we will not give unsolicited advice. I mean, it's different if somebody's saying, this is an experience that I had, does anybody have any thoughts about it? That's
Well,
different.
well, yeah, and they're opening it up.
Right.
And I think too, like for me, for a long time, just where like how I was trained to what I was trained to do, and even in like traditional or in conservative Christian circles, like there's a right way. And so like that's why a lot of these things, like I appreciate the curiosity of asking me, but I don't even want to give like
Right.
a full because you're not going to think it's okay. You're going to think it's wrong. And I
Right.
know that, and I just don't care to go there.
Yeah.
And where you are is where you are, and that's great, and that's fine. And so and I was one in the first many years of my life and I learned that in my family. We would all speak our thoughts and opinions, and it was a good training ground for me for what I ended up going on to do, which was
Yeah.
used to make arguments all the time for your cases, for your theories, and support all that and do. I mean, that's what you do. So, I learned how to assert my opinion very strongly and authoritatively, and have all the evidence to back it up. And it's so funny because like now I'm just really not interested in that at all. Like I really have like zero interest in spending time doing that in like my personal life or in any, like because my thoughts have just shifted so much about that. And so yeah, so I really like I and yeah, I guess again, especially when you know your audience, like that like what I would
Right.
say and share it from I know your point of view, and you would think it's like not okay. So
Yeah. I
um,
think a part of that too is just like it's a part of the human experience, the human condition is that there are times when our humanness wants battle,
mm,
wants to have an argument, wants to have a discussion that feels heated. And Again, I go back to the movie Michael, where he's in the field fighting the bull, and he's like, this is my nature. Boom, they hit head to head, and they're both like the bull and him just rolling on the ground, but
Mm.
happy as clams because they did the battle, and it was just they thought it was fun. So I again, it just reminds me to remember to laugh, because you can see that maybe this person was really wanting to know your thoughts about things, or maybe they were just trying to lure you into a battle because they were looking for a fight, kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah, no,
Not like a fist fight or
yeah, they were
anything, but
just curious about just certain situations in our life. But I
yeah.
knew that was going to go down into realms that I didn't want to talk
Right.
about, like with
Yeah.
faith and communities and all those things that I just was like, especially like in front of like a lot of people, I was like, yeah. So, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah. So no, their intention was not that at all. I know that
Yeah.
genuine curiosity, but I also know where they are in life and where they are in their faith and how they're choosing to live and things. And so, you know, we're just different. We're just in different
Yeah.
places.
And that's
Um,
okay, because if we were all the same, it would be
yeah,
boring. And
yeah,
I loved the first line in 4, where he said, "Would you be hostage
yeah.
to the ego or host to God? You will accept only whom you invite."
Mm.
I mean, it really it puts the responsibility squarely in our lap. Like, you get to choose what you're going to do here. And then when I read paragraph 8, I got some more insights. He says,
Yeah.
"The way is not hard, but it is very different. Yours is the way of pain, of which God knows nothing. That way is hard indeed and very lonely. Fear and grief are your guests, and they go with you and abide with you on the way. But the dark journey is not the way of God's Son. Walk in the light and do not see dark companions." Which down below, he says that fear and grief are the dark companions. "For they are not fit companions for the Son of God, who was created of light and in light. The great light always surrounds you and shines out from you. How can you see the dark companions in a light such as this? If you see them, it is only because you are denying the light, but denying them instead but deny them instead, for the light is here and the way is clear." And then the fourth sentence in 9, "When you wander, you but undertake a journey which is not real." And what came to me when I was thinking about that was, when I am walking with the dark companions of fear and grief, I actually feel angry at my husband for leaving me, especially in the world the way it is right now, where there's so much uncertainty and unrest, and things can seem really scary. Um, but being angry at him for leaving me in this crazy world is not the truth. If I remember the truth and release the grief and the fear, I can feel him all around me. I can hear his guidance. I just can feel him all around me. And so it's that truth. When you wander, you but undertake a journey which is not real. So the fear and the grief, they are part of the human experience, but they are not real, because his physical body is gone, but that's it.
Mhm.
The rest of his presence is fully present. And when I'm willing to let go of the darkness of the fear and the grief, knowing that they're still there and still honoring the fact that, that is part of my human experience right now, I can feel and see so much more clearly and discern what it is that I am to do. So, yeah.
Well, and so I had that underlined. I had 8 like ash, I did like a thing on there for the whole paragraph, and then I underlined the line you had in 9:4. But I also underlined 3 because
Mm,
that is a promise we should never forget. You will never lose your way, for God leads you.
hmm.
When you wander, you but undertake a journey which is not real. And so what came to me as you were talking is this idea that you will never lose your way, for God leads you. And thinking about that, like, and in all of the, and I've said this in here before, like I was like obsessed with near death experiences after my
Yeah.
dad passed, and I watched a ton of interviews of people who had them, and I read a bunch of books on the afterlife and people who were regressed and people who had near death experience, all the things. For like a year, I was like in that space. And what so many people talk about is that when they have that, like, when their like spirit leaves their body and that temporary, and they're looking down or they're experiencing the other side while they're in this like in between space, so many people talked about like they can see things that you can't see when you're in your body, like of what will happen in the future or what could happen in the future. And so it's like you get outside the bounds of time and space, and they can see. And I know we've shared this here in this space before, that I really do believe that my father's decision to leave his body was the most loving choice he could make
Yeah.
for all of us. And so I have to believe that any of us, like, because it's a choice to leave your body. We all will have that choice. And so whether you take whatever point you decide to take it, it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I have to believe that Rudy has some level of insight as
Absolutely.
well, as to that this is the moment he chose, like this
Yeah.
is the door he chose, versus some other time down the road, right?
Yeah.
And so that brings me back to that idea of like, we don't know what anything is for. You don't know what anything is for. You like, when you're sitting here in a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, you're going to have a different perspective, and a perspective perhaps
Yeah.
that he had in that moment before he made the decision that this was it. This was when he was going to, make the transition.
Yeah.
Um, so we can't know, we can't, and it's like, and that's the trust piece. We have to trust that, and I've thought about this, like, would I feel the same way? Could I still say this if I wake up tomorrow, my husband, goes out to the store and doesn't come home, or
Right.
my kids, or, it's, and that's a reality. But, it's that trust piece of that, you have to, and it's hard when you're still in it. I mean, it's hard when you're
Yeah.
still in the major throes of it. It took like 18 months for me to really kind of get out of that. 12, I was solid. I always say, like, there's about a solid 12 when I'm in a deep grief. 12, I'm like in it thick. And then it starts to wane a little bit from 12 to 18 months. And then somehow life can start to feel like there's like this acceptance, this integrate. It takes that long, I think, to integrate that this is your new reality, to
Yeah.
truly integrate that, like, this person who's here every day of your life is no longer here. Like, it takes that long for me anyway, to kind of like accept and integrate that reality into my life, to where it doesn't, every time I think about it, just like make me want to double over and cry.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Those are some thoughts that I have about that, of like, and anger's real, and that's, we all, I mean, the stages of, of death and dying, we know the stages of grief, that's a real part of one.
Yeah.
And I had it too. Like, there were things that I was still angry at my father about, messes that he left, that I ended up having to clean up, like physical
Yeah.
things that it took me years to wade through, because he was just unwilling and unable to do it when he was here. And I was
Yeah.
very angry, and it consumed my life for many years, and I was angry about that. So there's stuff, right, that we continue to deal with
Yeah.
our loved ones, but that trust that they can see what we can't see at a soul level, and that they're acting, if there's that true love, they're acting out of that place of love, and that this may be what was best for you both, who knows.
Yeah. I absolutely know that for a fact. Um, I I feel like our entire relationship was like ordained before we got here, kind of thing. And I've had many experiences that have kind of brought me to that conclusion. But I know I know that he left this world before his body got so weak that he needed like 24/7 care from me, because he knew that I had already been taking care of so many things from when he first got sick. And because, when he started to get sick this time, I'm like, dude, you're retired. All those phone calls and all of those appointments and all of that stuff, it's on you now, because I'm still working, I'm still taking classes, and so I think he got to see like how much I was really doing, and decided, yeah, I'm out of here before that happens. Plus, he saw how difficult it was for me to take care of my mom, at the same time taking care of him, especially right after he had his kidney transplant. So I know that he chose to leave at the perfect time for both of us, and that it was a gift to me, and that is why I am so determined that, not that I'm not going to allow myself to grieve, to be sad, to be angry, but I am using that energy to do what I have been put on this earth to do. And so I'm determined to, get back to doing my videos, and I'm determined to um continue doing my counseling work, and I'm determined to take the time that he has given me, this gift that he has given me, and not squander it.
Mm.
So, um, it's been almost 7 months, and I feel like I am in a really good place considering it's only been 7 months. And I know, like, the holidays sucked.
Yeah.
You
First
know,
one. Yeah.
Christmas was awful. My son and I sobbed in the street in front of his house when I got there, and New Year's, like, I thought it was going to be completely fine, but I woke up New Year's Eve morning and I was a wreck. I was a wreck. Thankfully, I had my EMDR therapy session that morning, and I was able to pull myself back to a place of, kind of neutrality, and get some stuff done and have a decent day. But it messed up my sleep for several days, because I just could not fathom entering a fresh year, 365 days without him. After being together for 43 years, it just like does not compute. Kind of thing. So, but I do feel like the sleep thing I'm getting back in rhythm with, and I am just more determined than ever to make sure that I don't squander this gift that he gave to me. I'm going to take impeccable care of myself to the best of my ability, and I'm going to do what I'm meant to do here.
Mm.
So again, it comes back to that. When you wander, you but undertake a journey that is not real. So I'm not ignoring the sadness or the anger, but I am really not tolerating myself dwelling in it. I am absolutely going to feel it fully and completely to the best of my ability when it arises, and allow it to come out so that it can make room for something better.
Yeah.
And I think part of that blessing has come from listening to Anderson Cooper's podcast, All There Is, where he's talking about his grief since his mom, Gloria Vanderbilt, passed away. And he had to deal with clearing out her house, which brought up the grief of when his father died when he was 10 and when his brother died when he was just a few years older than that. And, like, so all of this grief that he hadn't dealt with before was
Mhm.
coming to the surface. So now he's talking to all these famous people that have grief journeys, and they get very raw, they get very vulnerable with each other. And it's the most honest conversation I've ever heard anybody have about grief. And it's so helpful. Just how he says how deeply you allow yourself to go into it when it arises um, from within you, is how deep your love and your understanding and your joy can become. It's like, you allow that grief to rise up and you feel it fully, fully, fully. And it just allows you to have that same intensity of the other happiness, joy, love. So that's been my experience so far. And I'm like blown away. So that's, one of the great things about anytime anybody asks me how I'm doing, I'm like, I'm doing remarkably well, considering, there were only 20 years in my life that Rudy was not here. I'm going to be 64, so that's a long time
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
have somebody like all those little synapses in my brain that connect, like he's in this synapses and he's in this synapses.
Yes.
So, or synapse. Yeah. So,
I feel that.
yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah. So,
I think that's why, like, I mean, I don't know, you've been through more, though, like, like what I was going to say is I imagine that's why, like, I can, like, parents are so, like, depending on your relationship with them, but losing a parent because they've been there literally from day one for you.
yeah.
Um, and so that was like that was real hard. Like this idea that like this
Oh,
person would
yeah.
have been on this earth as like every day that I have, like,
Right.
is not here. But I can imagine where you are with, like that you are me in like 20 years. Like I've been with my husband since we were 19. I met him when I was
Yeah.
17. So, um, yeah, I think I was 19 when we started dating and, or 20, no, 20, it was 1999. And, so yeah, so I remember we reached the point where I was like, I've been with you longer than I haven't been with you
Right.
in my life. And so, yeah, it's a complete, I think that's why those losses are you're right. Because so much of your brain is wired around that person being on the earth.
Yeah.
And,
And it feels like what I imagine a brain injury feels like. People that have dementia or Alzheimer's or stroke, it feels similar to that sometimes. Not always, thank God. But it feels like, or a concussion. Like there's something that's broken in the brain because there's all of these broken connections that my brain is trying to make sense of,
yeah,
the confusion of it all.
I still like, and I don't know if I really felt like it happened after my dad passed. And I've talked about this, and I still had the issue yesterday. I was in a conversation in a meeting, and I could not remember a certain term, and I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, and I know it. I could not. I had to text my husband. I was like, "What is?" Da, da, da. Because they were like, "It's okay, Dana," and I was like, "No, like this is gonna bother me," and it was like
Yeah.
I could not recall it for a long time. So I had to finally text him and ask him, and then he was like, "It's this," and I was like, "Oh, yes, that is it.
Yeah.
It is right. That's the name that I was thinking of." And I couldn't. And it's like a black hole that is there, and it hasn't fully come back. Like where I just
Yeah.
lose like words that I should know. Name. I mean, it started as names. It was people's names like for a long time. like people that I've been friends with for years, and like could
Right.
not come up with their name. And like I know them, and sometimes it still happens even with like my family. Like I'll pause because I'm like, there's a pause there where I'm like, ah, and
Yeah.
it's like a blank. Like I like there wasn't information there, and I can't bring it to the surface.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's middle age. Like I don't think it's like the menopause. Like it really happened after my dad passed,
Yeah.
and it hasn't fully come back. Where I just, it's like it's gone. Like the thing that I'm searching for, it's like no matter how much, I'll rack my brain for a long time. Like because people have moved on, and I'm still trying to.
Right.
It's like I'm trying. Like you're trying to bring it to the surface, and I know it, and I can make all these associations.
Yes.
The word like it was a denominational association that I was trying to remember. And I remembered that I went to I visited a college that was the same denomination in Boston in the year. I could tell like all these different things I could tell
Right.
you, but I could not name the name of the denomination I was trying to think about. Couldn't even
Yeah.
tell you what letter it started with. Like it was so, like it was just
Yeah.
so anyway, it's yes, and it's very true that it's like this, and I think sometimes for me it's like how fast I think it just happened. Like I think that just sent my brain and like I just remember thinking for those few weeks like this can't be real. Like this can't be happening. Like
Yeah.
how many we said goodbye to my dad like twice, like 2 weeks after he was in the hospital. The doctors didn't know if he's going to make it through the night. It was the night before Mother's Day because I remember I got up very early on Mother's Day and just went to the hospital as soon as I could to see if my father was still
Yeah.
like what his situation was, and because that 24 hours was going to be like super. And so we had all said our goodbyes that night before we left, and anyway, so it was just like it was like within weeks. It was like he was healthy, and then 10 days later, I'm saying like I'm not never going to see him again. And then
Right.
I mean, it was another 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, but so it was just I think the it's like your brain can't compete, and you're just trying to like survive
Exactly.
the moment of like I
Yeah.
have to be here every day and fight for his care, and all this that I couldn't even like comprehend what was like. I look back on that now, and I'm like I had no real thought that my father was dying. Like I couldn't really go there, and I had
Yeah.
no idea how to navigate any of this. And all the signs were there. Like he wanted nothing to do with anything that I was trying. Like magazines about Dylan, I was bringing in food.
Yeah.
He just had no, and I couldn't see it. I was just like, no, you'll. Anyway, so it's yeah, I 100% think that those, especially those long, long time relationships that are just foundational to
Yeah.
the way that you live every day of your life. Yeah, I can't. So I mean, I can sort of imagine, but I can't really at the same time.
Yeah.
But I can't. Um, and then watching my mom kind of go through that, what that
Yeah.
was like. I mean, she's,
She's a trooper, man.
60 years. I think they were
Yeah.
60 years. She was pretty young when she met me.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm so grateful for her presence in my life because out of all of the people that I know that have lost a spouse, she is the one that I can relate to most
mm,
because I mean, I'm sure she had her horrible moments too, but she like is so accepting of what happened. And I also can understand like what you're talking about like with your dad because when my dad passed it was from an aortic aneurysm rupture
mm,
and like one day he was fine
mm,
and the next day he was gone
mm.
and I'm like what just happened
You
what
can't. It's like you can't even. Your brain is like
yeah
can't even.
and I didn't have time to grieve at that time because he passed away 6 weeks after my mother had open heart surgery 11-hour aortic or not aortic some kind of valve replacement. I can't remember now, but it's not important.
Mm,
And so I was taking her to therapy sessions and doctor's appointments and
yeah. Trying to keep one
taking care of
alive
her.
in the other
Yeah.
lost. Yeah. Wow. That's a lot.
Plus and she had dementia that was way worse than we even realized.
Mm,
until just a few months after my dad was gone. It was like, oh, okay.
Back to back is hard. That
Yeah,
sounds like the back, like, where people don't, my brother talked about that. He sees that in probate. We had that with friends in his
yeah,
childhood friend. She lived up the street from us. I mean, she was young, like
yeah,
20s, early 20s, and
yeah,
I forget which one passed first. And then within a few months, the other one passed. It was just like wham, bam, they were both
yeah,
gone. So I think I mean, honestly, I think we never saw my dad going first. I always thought it, just because I don't know, his mother lived into her 90s and he was
yeah,
healthy. But when I think about it now, my father wouldn't have lived without my mother.
yeah,
I think if my mother had, like, my father would not have been able to endure that at all. And I think it
yeah,
would have been one of those where he was gone real quick. If
yeah,
he lived to see her pass, he wouldn't have survived
right.
without her.
Yeah,
Um, I could see that he wouldn't have been able to endure, like, my father's ability to endure emotional things was very limited. I don't think he could have endured the grief. So I look at that now. I think about that now in a way that I didn't think about it before. Like,
yeah,
he had a hard time with friends, or people that he hadn't seen in years, and it would take him down for days. Like, he would be really, like, in a dark place. As he
yeah,
got older and people were starting to pass in his life, I couldn't imagine him, like, survive. Like, so I just realized that now, like, he had to be the one to go first because he couldn't have
yeah,
endured any. Thankfully, like, we didn't have a situation where any of us, I just think my father wouldn't have been able to handle it. Like, it was
yeah.
too much for his
Well, I
system.
just remember the challenge he was having because they were moving.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that was real hard, and I felt like maybe that like killed him, but whatever. I have a friend who
No,
does
yeah, I think it
physically
was
and
just,
works.
it was the timing was perfect.
No, it was,
Imperfect and perfect at the same
and
time.
still, and I still say that to people. Like, my father still could not live to see the sale of his house. Like, he
Yeah.
didn't. He passed 19 hours before the final.
Wow.
Yeah, and everything kept moving.
Yeah.
The close date kept moving. He kept getting sicker and everything. And he had signed the papers, but the actual close date to where we were not, he did not own that house,
Yeah.
happened about 19, within 24 hours of his pass. So he passed in like 19 hours. Like, he passed on a Sunday afternoon. It was sometime on a Monday that the
Yeah.
house officially closed. Because still, I
Yeah.
think my father still didn't live to see his house sell because
Yeah.
he could not. It was
Yeah.
like yes. So again, things that you just don't realize till after the fact, that I realized
Right.
that it had to kind of go that way, because he could not have endured the other. And that would have been really hard to lose them. I mean, so yeah, it's really hard to lose them both or to
Yeah.
deal with. Um, and my mom is amazing. I mean, she, definitely had what I was gonna say is, like, having to deal with all the things of my father passing so quickly,
Yeah.
but then she did okay. I mean, she stopped functioning for like that summer. Like, Daniel and I did all the things for her. Like,
Yeah.
she just stopped doing anything.
Yeah.
Um, and so she had her initial time of just, she wasn't herself for a good long time. I mean, you've known my mom for years.
Yeah.
So she was not herself, and that was hard, but still strong, still who she is, still who you know she is in the spiritual world. So, you know, it was easier for us to, like, she was okay, but not okay, but she was
Yeah.
ultimately okay. Um, Whereas, my dad would have been just, like, emotionally a mess, and
Yeah.
he
My
was,
son said the same thing
yeah. So
after
it's so
Rudy.
from, like, from the perspective of all the practical things that you have
Yeah.
to do when a parent dies, and there was all the stuff with, like, she didn't have a place to live, we were selling the I mean, like, all the things that
Right.
practically had to happen, not to mention settling estates and all the changeover, which I know because now you're going through it.
Right.
Everything that has his name can't have his name anymore, and all the things.
Right.
um just that's hard, and then to deal with the emotional side of the other parent dealing. So yeah, like, I mean, there's just so much that goes
Yeah.
into this, and we know not a lot of people, there's not it's not a I don't know, not anything people really talk. I feel like these
Right.
big massive transitions in life, like parenthood, becoming a parent,
Yeah.
that knocked me on my ass for a while. I was like, oh gosh, people just, I don't know. Nobody's talking about how hard this, like, what, just my whole life just imploded. What happened? I couldn't
Yes.
even, like, go to the bathroom. Like, nobody talked
Yeah.
about this. I didn't, you just don't know. And I was the
Yeah.
youngest, so I didn't have the experience of seeing other people do that. My brothers didn't have kids, so no. So, and then a parent dying and like, or, grief and like all that
Right.
that is. Yeah. So there's a lot in our society that we just kind of like don't talk about and
Yeah.
just assume people can figure out, I guess.
Yeah.
And so hopefully I had some good support when I had
Oh, yeah.
my son. There was a postpartum doula who led a lovely, lovely group I'd say I did that for the first 8 or 9 months, and that was my lifeline. I mean, that was
Yeah.
really my best friend. She and I were pregnant together, and so we had each other with that. And then having my brother through this process was really helpful, of the grief thing. And my mom, again, she was grieving, but also she had she was grounded at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And you can trade off when you're having your grief moment and the other one's having their grounded moment.
Yeah.
Like, so that was nice with her.
Yeah.
And
And
still is.
you still have that urge to make sure your kids are okay, even through
Yeah,
the hardest thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I will say, I mean, I don't know. And I don't, well, I like my dad's passing was one of the hardest, if not the hardest year of my life. And I said when my mom's my best friend, has been my whole life. So I'm like, I don't know. That's gonna be. And she's always like, Dana, you'll be fine. You'll be. And I was like, oh mom, I don't know. And I don't have like, we just she's been my person my whole life. So and I'm fortunate that I have many. Like I have my husband, and I have my brother, and I have her, but um, that those I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard transition in life.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the time I have. I'm trying to do the same thing you're doing. I'm doing it with my mom.
Yeah.
Like she just turned 79. So, I hope that she'll have many, many more good years. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's just death is a part of life. It is hard. I'm reading the book. Have you ever read the book Signs? Um,
No, I've heard you talk about it. Yeah, I
oh, have
haven't
I
read
heard
it
you talk
yet.
about it?
I thought
Yeah,
so.
I'm in the middle of it and it's good. I mean, it's nothing I didn't know, but it's just interesting to read
Yeah.
like this psychic medium talk about this story. I mean, it confirms everything that I've known for a
Right.
while now, but I and have experienced. And so to hear her stories and other people's stories of I'm thinking of getting two copies and then writing a note in it to my children in case I just pass unexpectedly. I mean, I tell them these things all the time, like I'll always be
Yeah.
with you, go here and you'll feel me and I'll be there and all those things. But it is a beautiful affirmation of reading other people's stories of how their loved ones connect with them,
Yeah.
how they, have those signs and things. So and there's always like a quote at the beginning of each chapter, and it is the one that I just read was something like, it's just, oh, I forget, I won't do it justice, but it was really beautiful of like, you're just two ends of I've heard people say you're just in another room, right? It's just two ends of the same spectrum and you're just
Yeah.
sides. But there are days that it's hard. Like it is hard. Like I wanted to hug my dad and I wanted to have my dad over for dinner, for the
Right.
holidays. And there's a big, and there's a big presence not
Yeah.
there on holidays.
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel that too. Like, right. And
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I am so grateful for like all of the books that I have read in the past, like the Lorna Burns Angels in My Hair,
yeah, I've read her.
um, the Testimony of Light,
Yeah,
Helen Greaves'
yes,
book.
I've
That
read
was
that a few times.
amazing. We
That was,
started reading that in class like just a couple of weeks before my dad passed away.
mhm.
So that was like my lifeline when he died. Um,
What's fascinating about that, Linda, is I mean, I haven't done the whole Masterful Living, all that with Jeff.
yeah,
I've read, my mother's given me many of the books, so I've read
yeah,
them, and that's one I've read a few times.
yes, I love
I
that book.
read that a few times after my dad passed. And what is fascinating to me was, because that's when I was obsessed with all the near death experiences, is that there's like, it's all congruent. Like
Yeah,
everything that she talks about in that book, you hear in all of these near-death experience things.
Yeah.
And in other books that I've read of people who've had, like there's a Harvard doctor who had a near-death experience and he went way deep into the science of the whole thing and
Yeah.
all of that. But it's all consistent. It's all
Yeah.
consistent in what people talk about the other side, about those experiences when they're not in their body.
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful book. I really love that book.
Yeah. Yeah. Even Alexander's book about when he had his near-death
Yeah,
experience.
that's the one I was talking. I forget what's his
Uh,
last name.
Alexander,
Yeah.
Eben Alexander. His first name is
Even,
Eben,
yes,
I
that's
think.
right. Yes, that's the one I
Yeah.
read too. And
I
it's
also loved um yeah, the woman that had her the name of the book was My Stroke of Insight.
oh, I
She
haven't
was a
read that
neuroscientist and
one.
had a stroke while she was taking a shower
Oh,
and was like going, "Oh, this is happening to me now."
mm,
And it was just like she was able to fully and completely, well, I don't know if completely, but she was able to fully come back from that experience,
mm.
which was a miracle, a total miracle. But her book, I can't remember her name.
That's okay. I can look it up. But I haven't read it.
But her mother was so present with her when she was in the hospital. And she didn't know that she was her mother. She just knew she was a really nice lady that was helping her. But her mother put up a sign that said, please be aware of the energy that you bring into this room.
Mm,
Because she said that, like doctors and nurses would come in and start talking about her daughter while she was in kind of a comatose state, as if she wasn't there. And she would tell them, you need to leave the room and discuss this outside,
mm.
those kinds of things. So,
Yeah,
um,
I read all those, but and that's what's so amazing. And I can now, like even sitting here, I realize like it was I came across some of those, but like the Alexander book, I like
yeah,
just came across that randomly
yeah,
in like the second or third month after my dad passed. And then I was doing all those videos, and then I read the Pathways of Life. Like it's like things just kept coming into my
yeah,
path in that year, that 6 to 8 months after my dad passed, and I was
yeah,
having all of these very similar experiences to this signs book. um, but then that's how I got really just sort of obsessed with this connection. And I love how that sort of had like things. I don't even remember how that book came into my life, that the
yeah,
Alexander book, but it did. And I remember I read it pretty quickly. I read it. I was at the beach because we basically lived at the beach that summer with my mom, and
yeah,
so I look like that whole all that reading and all of that and all the of what I was. It was like my dad. Now I realize it was like my dad like sending me stuff to help me understand
that's it right there. Yes.
works, because I didn't have that understanding of the whole larger picture that way. And
Yeah.
I had a little bit from my friend passing and some other experiences I had in the previous 5 years, but it all sort of came all together with all the, and again, like these books just sort of made their, I don't even remember how, if I saw it at a used bookstore, whatever, but these books all made their way into my hands within the 6 months after my dad passed.
Yeah.
And I was like sort of obsessed with them all, and they all were congruent. They all were consistent and congruent, and so it just really affirmed a lot of things for me. And now it's like I see it so clearly, like the signs and the connection, and it's yeah, it's just amazing. It really is. It's really amazing. Like it's still super hard,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's such a gift of insight and knowledge,
Yeah.
um, and to see. I think Jennifer's blog was about seeing today, which was really interesting
Oh, yeah. She was
about the
talking about
light,
the light
because I
too.
was reading this chapter too
Yeah.
about the light. And so like I was like even in 10, and I know we're over past time and we can go in a minute, but
It's okay.
where it says, do not be deceived by the dark comforters, and never let them enter the mind of God's Son, for they have no place in his temple. And uh, then goes on at the end to say, only God's comforter can comfort you.
Mm-hmm.
So that, like, to remember that, like, such a the discipline over the mental temple of our
Yeah.
minds is like so important. Um, because we just have to remember the truth, and that light, you can see so much more.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt after my dad passed. Like it was this really, and he was so close to me in the first year. Like so, like I would say something to him and he would like, and I would hear back like immediately.
Yeah.
And it's literally, it's so funny we're talking about this because I was just talking to my mom about this last night. Because I'm going to start working with my brother in his business this new year. And
Oh,
I've been
cool.
asking my dad for like, I'm like, Dad, I just, I need to know that this is the right thing. And we're doing this for many reasons, but for family, for our, for to help with our family finances and things like that. Um, and I was thinking about the, and I told my mom, I said there was like two times after Dad passed, I was so overwhelmed, and I asked him specifically to help me because I was, and it was around finding a place for my mother to live. Like my husband had taken my kids for a week to Atlanta so I could just have some space after his memorial. And then when he got back, my brother was like, "All right, Dana, you've had your like break. You need to figure out Mom's living situation. We need to figure this."
Yeah.
And I was just so overwhelmed. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know. I was like, gosh, I had no idea. And I remember just being so overwhelmed. And I asked my dad, I said, Dad, I need help. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what's right. And it all worked out. We found it's where she is now. But I remember we were sitting there and they were like, and we're running like a $40,000 off this month. Like there was some crazy,
Yeah.
discount. And I was like, oh, okay. And then a few months later, when I was trying to get this storage unit, I had these two huge storage unit packed full, 10 by 20s, floor to ceiling with their stuff. And I had to get it down to one. And I was like, Dad, I don't, I was like, I just remember being like, I was praying to God and I said, Dad, I need your help. Because there was no way to unpack one without an empty one because there was
Yeah.
literally so full. I couldn't like unload it into the hallway and then load it back. Like,
Right.
and so I was like, I was so overwhelmed and I was like, I need help and I need an empty unit. I can't do this without an empty unit. And we went to do it that weekend. The weekend we said we're going to do it, and across the hall there was a huge empty unit with the
Wow.
door. They leave it unlocked for whatever reason. Anyway, so I stored everything in there for like a night or two that as I was pulling stuff out and getting people to come and take and whatever. And it was just so it was like these moments when I really needed my dad's help. And I specifically asked him for specific help. Like
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. And I was just in the throes of all my grief. And he showed up and he was there and so many other like million like through songs and just all kinds of things that I felt like he was really present in that
Yeah.
time. And it's just it I don't know. It was this amazing irony, and I couldn't talk to a lot of people about that because it sounds crazy town to them, right? Where I'm like, I have this whole other relationship with my father now, even though he's gone. Like
Right.
he sees things that he couldn't see before, and I could hear him saying things to me that like he would never have said in his body because he wasn't aware at that level emotionally when he was in
Yeah.
his body. And it was like this whole other level of relationship was so cool to have. But, so it was this, I don't know, it was sort of this weird magical time. I don't know if you're feeling that, where it's like
Oh,
the
absolutely.
connection is so strong, especially initially.
Yeah.
Um, and it changes. For me, it has changed with my dad. And I know that like where I know that he was doing that because I needed it really badly in that
Right.
first year. Um, and now it's a different level of it, but it's still there and he's still there. And I know that, but so it's really a gift, the awareness we have. And so it does make it easier, I think, but there's still times it's really hard.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so anyway, well, this was
Yeah.
lovely, Linda. Sorry we went over, but
Oh, that's all right. I have nothing but time today.
and I'll say this: I'm going to leave on this. This was my, or and the last line of 12, the very last line of the chapter, I thought was so beautiful. Time cannot separate you from God if you use it on behalf of the eternal.
Mm, yeah.
And so I think about that like in terms of our time on this earth, as you're talking about using your time on this earth, like we don't even have to be bound by time and space on this earth
Right.
if our purpose is the eternal.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a hopeful thing.
Yeah. And it does feel a lot like what Jennifer was talking about. Like the light is so bright right now
Mhm.
that it's shining. So we're able to see like all the dust bunnies and all the
You see all the things. Yeah.
so even though it may feel like life is challenging, it's because we are still holding the light and we're holding it so brightly that the darkness has nowhere to hide.
Yeah. And you'd rather see, I would anyway. I'd rather see, and it reminds me because there's a moment in the day where when I sit in my living room and I have a big picture window, I have a 60s split, and the light shines through and I can see, and like my windows look horrible, like all the streaks, I can see all of them. And then you have
Yeah.
all the dust in the air. You know that
Right.
moment when the light just hits right and you're like, oh my gosh, my house looks perfect. Like it's all everywhere. And
Yeah.
but it is also like I love the light. I'm a Leo, so like I have like 5 placements in Leo, so I am all sun energy in my astrology chart, and I love the sun, so I love the beach. But so I still love to get that light. I love to sit in the light. I love to be in the light, and I'd still rather see it than not see it.
Yeah. Me too.
And
Even through the dirty windows.
yeah, yeah. So, oh, well, this was
Yeah.
lovely, Linda. It was a
Yeah. Thank
good
you.
chat.
It was nice to spend time with you. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
So next week we will continue chapter 11, section 4, God's blameless son. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Same.
And I think we've talked enough, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything.
No,
I
I
am
think
upset because I see something that is not there, which is perfect for what we just read.
yeah, yeah. Well, I hope you have a lovely week.
Yeah, you too, Dana.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you soon.
All right. Bye, friend.
Bye.